It's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. So, Justice Democrats, come on down. You are the next contestant. So, look, I'm going to start off. Yeah, I'll start off here. Look, I like what you guys are doing. And I fundamentally understand why you're doing it. I think if you're anything like me, you looked out at the world and said, oh my God, something needs to happen. It's going to hell, and these guys don't get it. They put in Chuck Schumer. They don't get it. They put Nancy Pelosi. Again, they're not getting it. Fine, if they're not going to get it, we're going to have to do something. So I get it. And in this case of TYT, you had enough clout from the media organization just by itself where you could drive that conversation. So in one sense, you say something needs to be done. In the second sense, we have the resources to do it. We're going to do it. Let's go. Let's go after them. It's an aggressive strategy. I like it. It's assertive. You had me at hello. When I first heard about it, I was all in. I mean, I have a video where I'm like gushing on it. Like, oh my God, it's awesome. I mean, I like the idea. It's the first strategy that I've come across so far that I've heard step by step how it plans to accomplish its objective. But you do understand what's taking place, right? Like this goes beyond you putting your candidates in office. Television right now, well, let's talk about the establishment. So the establishment is more than just politics. What I mean is it's more than just who's in this office or that office. It's the ruling ideology to a certain degree. Who's in power? Who sets the debate? If you're having a debate, that's not just power, that's also media. Now, we're not arranged in the Soviet Union way, like where they would have, back in the Cold War days, they would have like a state media, where the state media comes out and gives its propaganda. We don't have it that way. But we have functions practically the same way. Think about it. The highest ideal for a media organization is neutrality. Meaning the government comes out, the government makes its case, and CNN just regurgitates it. How is that different than state media? Here's what the government said uncritically. Now look, they may show a Republican who just says something else, but that doesn't really mean anything. Each person just goes into their ideological camps. So they hear what the Republican says, it's like, fucking right. Democrat hears what the other guy says, that's fucking right. Nothing was accomplished. Nobody is illuminated by the experience. And at the end of the day, you can make a case that their job was accomplished. State media without being state media. Now, here's the catch. From 40 and below, that number drops off significantly. Meaning that those people are not watching TV. The audiences for many of those shows are in the 50s, 60s. There's a time limit on it. I'm not saying television isn't just going to go belly up. It's going to limp on. But certainly you can see where the trend is going, right? The things that are going to drive the conversation, the things that are going to influence policy and politics are going to be increasingly online. And right now, you guys have the largest online audience, which means that right off the bat, you've becoming an establishment of your own right. Now you can make a case that it's not good or bad, it's an either or, and you can even make a case that says, look, in any situation, a new establishment will be created because that's just the nature of the beast. You can't get away from it. And that's probably true. That may be true. But that doesn't necessarily make it any less, eyebrow raising, maybe? They always say getting libs to kind of fall in line is like herding cats. We're immensely distrustful of power, regardless of where that power lays. But look, at the end of the day, I at the very least acknowledge, I acknowledge the usefulness of it. I put it that way. And between the echo chamber and the bubble that I want to exist in, I'd rather exist in yours. I mean, because look, when those guys are having that conversation, there's feedback between the two. They're driving the debate. The things that they're talking about in Washington, in many cases, get aired out through the media and vice versa. They're talking to themselves. It's their bubble. They're the people who are having that debate. They're the people who are having that conversation. That's also the establishment, or at the very least, that's a wing of the establishment. If you can't break into that debate, you don't matter. And again, if I'm making the case that that becomes less and less of a priority, that shows like yours, shows like Sane Progressives or some of the other shows that are on YouTube, those channels are going to take the priority. And those channels are going to become the new establishment. Look, I don't necessarily know if that's good or bad. At the end of the day, like I said before, I would prefer to live in that space than the space that we currently exist in. I think that space is healthier and everything else. But at the same time, I can acknowledge, honestly, that that's a little sketchy. Because at the end of the day, you will literally be state-run media. Literally. There is no distinction between you, your political arm, and your media arm. The things that your candidates are espousing are going to be espoused through your channel, just by virtue of who they are, and by virtue of what you are, and by virtue of you putting those guys up. Certainly you know there's conflict of interest. I mean, look, she's right. Have the conversation with her. I mean, come on, that's sketchy, right? And look, you can even make the argument that says, look, why is that a bad thing? At the end of the day, people know what's going on, meaning they know that this particular candidate is our choice. They know that this is the guy who we want to run. So at the very least, everything is on board. Everybody knows everybody. We are biased. Yes, we're biased towards human values, and that's on the table. I don't think that's a bad argument to have at all. But certainly you can still see that there's a conflict of interest to having those two things fused together. Look, I would prefer you guys have a conversation. Look, so in the old echo chamber, or the current echo chamber, for the most part, people would pay politicians a lot of money. Politicians would take that money, and they would do something nasty for that person. And if you're saying, ooh, that sounds kind of seedy, it is seedy. Giving political favors is, for the most part, a form of prostitution. In fact, it's the far less glamorous version of it. If anything, we, for the most part, are the people who are paying you to be the prostitutes. And I'm not using that as a pejorative. I'm saying in a sense, we're paying you. We're your base. We're the people who are giving you our support, our cash. We're the people who are essentially saying, yes, we want these guys to run. They have our unabashed support, etc., etc. That's us. In the same way that when the donors kind of pull those strings, they prefer their politician to jump. When your base has questions, answer their questions. I think that's a fair point. Look, the things that are being asked of you, the questions that people have, the critiques that people are making, they're not doing it to tear you down. And I know you guys probably feel a lot of heat right now. But they're not doing it to tear you down. They're doing it to make you better. They're trying to get you to understand these things. And I made the case before somewhere else. Even though I understand there's a conflict of interest, that still is not enough of a reason for me not to go forward. I kind of want you guys to still do it. But you at least have to acknowledge the conflict of interest. And not just acknowledge it. If you're going to go with this thing of progressive values, ethics should matter to you. Ethics are important. Whether those ethics are more important than winning elections, that's your choice. All I'm saying is, it should matter. The fact that people have questions should matter. Have the conversation. Look, invite Debbie on your show. Talk to her. Hey, if anything, I gotta be honest. I at least acknowledge that there are issues there. It's not just her. It's a lot of people who understand that there are issues there. And who are, just getting out of an abusive relationship with the last party. Yeah, of course we're going to have questions. We're going to have doubts. Answer the questions. Bring her on your show. Have a conversation with her. I'm going to start a day drive, day one. Days to the Young Turks has Debbie on her show, starting number 1. Have the conversation, guys. Come on. Thanks. Bye-bye.